Welcome to episode 6 of the SADDO podcast, Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive, where we take a deep look into The Good Life, everyone's favourite sitcom from the 1970s. I'm Alison Barton-Simmons, your co-host.
And I'm Eggs Benedict, your other co-host.
And this week we are looking at the episode The Pagan Rite, which sees Tom and Barbara heading out on the town after Tom takes on some freelance work from his old company.
Yeah, it's a good one, I think.
Yeah, there's lots to look at. There's lots going on here, and it was, I think, sort of the taking the story forward from the self-sufficiency and the struggle. I quite liked this episode and how it sort of took the couple and the decisions that they've made in terms of having like a one last blowout. Yeah,
it was nice, wasn't it? And I think it's a lovey-dovey episode. You get to see how in love with each other and how sexually active both couples are.
Absolutely, yeah. I was taken by surprise, actually, at Jerry and Margo towards the end, but we'll get to that later.
Like I said last week, we could have a, good life after hours like Hollyoaks.
I think it needs one. There's lots going on.
There is. But before we get stuck into it, did you manage to find and unearth anything about the 1970s swivel sticks or toothbrushes from last week, Al?
I couldn't find anything about a swivel stick. The only swivel stick that I could sort of stumble across was something to do with moisturising cream and a product called a swivel stick, which I don't think was what Tom was talking about in last week's episode. Although I did have a deep dive into the internet to try and find some link between electric toothbrushes and vibrators, which I'm they are in existence in 2020. Whether they were in 1975, I don't know, but I'm sure if the electric toothbrush was a thing, I'm sure women were putting two and two together.
I'm not sure how hygienic that is, are you?
I don't think it's very hygienic at all, but hey ho. Would it stop you?
Well, I suppose needs must in the 70s, but in my house, in the past at least, we've shared an electric toothbrush. And I don't much like the idea of... No.
You could give it a swill in some different heads for different jobs.
Yeah. No, I mean, Ali and I have different heads for we don't use the same bristles. We're not cavemen.
You're not animals.
No.
I'm sure there would be some kind of health etiquette with an electric toothbrush. You could give it a swill in some Milton fluid. I'm sure it would. It was. Oh no, I'm sure it would have been all right.
But of course, they did have these 1970s toothbrushes because I found some with Bugs Bunny on. What did the Bugs Bunny one say? It said, "Hey, brush up, Doc." It was like the kid-themed electric toothbrushes from the 70s.
I bet they were all saying that.
Snoopy, hey, Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
Do you reckon there was a Top Cat one? If there was a Top Cat one, I wish I'd had one.
Yeah, I think that the Snoopy one would have been the one that I wanted. I'm sure.
This is a market opportunity. We found a gap.
Yeah.
We should definitely be doing themed electric toothbrushes as a spin-off to this podcast for kids. So, obviously, everyone's got an electric toothbrush these days, but they're not fun like the 70s ones. I would have loved a Benny the Ball one from Top Cat,
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'd have collected them all, even though I only have one mouth. I would have wanted the whole set of especially the Peanuts, Snoopy ones. I would have gone for that big time.
What do you think? If you were going to do it for today's market, though, it'd have to have like Justin Bieber on it or something, wouldn't it?
A Justin Bieber one, yeah.
I suppose that'd work well as a double entendre if they were using it as a vibrator as well.
There is a gap in the market. A One Direction, One Direction ones.
I just realised that the direction in which we're taking this podcast now, we're talking about children's toothbrushes being used as vibrators. That's just not right.
It's a niche market, I think that, isn't it? It's
yeah,
but one to be explored, perhaps. I think we're missing a trick.
I think we should swiftly move on from this.
Okay,
before we dig
any deeper. Although, do you think we should put some pictures of the ones that we've found so far on the website for people to peruse?
Yeah, we'll tweet them out and we'll stick them on Instagram. So have a look and tell us your favourite.
Yeah, and if you've got any ideas yourself about where we can take our new industry of children's toothbrushes and vibrators, please let us know. Let us know what you think.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So this episode is the pagan rite, and we see sort of Tom and Barbara and Jerry and Margo in a bit of a different light, I think, in this episode. It's not all sort of getting on with the job and interfering neighbours. You see them more in sort of like a human light, I think.
Yeah, I reckon they definitely had an idea with this one to explore the individual marriages of the couples more for this episode. Because you're getting towards the end of the first series now. This is the penultimate one. So I think they're like trying to establish what kind of relationships they have with each other a bit more in this one.
Yeah, I think Margo, especially in this episode, is much more likeable as a character and as a neighbour and a friend. I think you see a different element to the lovely Margo.
Are we getting a preview of your MVP here?
Possibly. I want to just put a pin in that for a moment and start. Right. Let's start at the beginning. So we open up in the first scene and we've got Tom and Barbara in their kitchen, their lovely kitchen, and Barbara is fixing a pair of shoes with Tom's wetsuit, which I found quite an odd sort of combination of products into one, cutting up a wetsuit to fix the shoes. And Tom is a bit miffed when he realises where the stuff's come from to fix the shoes. But Barbara says, "Well, you were frightened of water skiing, so don't worry about it." But he makes a really big deal of it, and I thought about you when I was watching it, Ben, because he made a big deal and he blamed somebody else for the fact that he was frightened of water skiing. So rather than saying, "Oh yeah, I wasn't a big fan, it was a bit scary," he said, "Yeah, it's always somebody else's fault."
Yeah, he's just typical pride and bluster from him. And is he cobbling at the same time? He's cobbling, I think, is he? While she's doing... Oh, he's cobbling... Is that mending shoes?
Is she fixing... Who's fixing the shoes? Was Barbara fixing the shoes?
Oh, well... Do you know, I'm not sure now. But I know that one of them mentions cobbling, and it did occur to me that it's in that category of sort of lost art things, like a bit like darning, because we don't do it anymore. You know, we're a more consumerist society and wasteful. We don't repair things. We just nip down the Asda and get a new 5-pack of socks rather than darn them.
But then Jerry turns up, and Tom starts to tell him about the cutting up the wetsuit to fix the shoes. That is what they were doing, weren't they? They were fixing the shoes with the wetsuit. Or
yeah, they were. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, Jerry turns up and Tom tells him that they're using the wetsuit to fix the shoes, and that he sort of like hints that it was his idea and not Barbara's, and sort of takes the idea away from Barbara, the fact that she's sort of come up with this plan. And I thought that was a bit snidey.
Yeah, he does that a lot, the prick.
He does. Yeah, so, Tom. But Jerry invites them round for dinner, says that Sir Andy from the company has invited them round for dinner, but at Jerry and Margot's house. Quite odd. But Tom and Barbara say they can't go round because they can't reciprocate. They can't invite everyone back because of their new sort of lifestyle, and they'll have to just say no.
Yeah, and I thought, I know it was Barbara who said we're not in a position to reciprocate, but I like to imagine that came from Barbara, because Tom wouldn't have the self-awareness.
No.
Barbara's got the self-awareness and the pride and decency to say it's not right for us to be bludgeon and leeching.
Yes.
And so she says no, but Jerry's quite pitiful in his pleading, isn't he? Yeah.
Tom says, I don't know why he's trying to invite me round, because I was just Mr. of the fourth floor the whole time that I worked there. And Barbara says that he's got a bit of a colossal nerve to ask them round after Tom's left the company. But there's an ulterior motive hanging in the air that Jerry's obviously aware of, that Sir wants to ask Tom about some freelance work that he wants to offer to Tom to do. Which Barbara straight away is it's not something that she's happy with. She wants to continue with this lifestyle of self-sufficiency, and sees the taking on of any official work would be going against their choices.
Yeah, I think that's setting out her stall, and it's a little bit of exposition. It's like she's firmly in that camp, so that we know for later, really, isn't it? What gets me in this scene, though, is just how sort of pathetic Jerry is in wanting to and allowing Sir to dictate his own dinner guests.
Yeah.
I mean, Margo probably doesn't care because she likes to lord it, but clearly he's quite happy just to suck up. And I think, well, basically, he even says, doesn't he? Well, no, you must come because otherwise he might find out I'm fiddling the expenses.
Yeah, it's quite an odd situation for him to be in, sort of begging neighbours to come round for dinner. So
what do you reckon he's fiddling the expenses for, though?
Gin.
Yeah, that's exactly where my mind went. There's like 3 crates of Gordon's that he's put on the company card.
Yeah.
And Sir's just too busy playing golf to notice. Did you notice that that Richard Bryars, in an unscripted moment, at least in my mind, decides to nick another fag off Paul Eddington in the kitchen?
No, I didn't. Oh, maybe this is a theme, isn't it? He
takes it out of his hands. He's smoking it.
Does it?
The poor bugger's smoking it, and Tom's like, yeah, okay, we'll come to dinner. And then Bryars is like, give us a drag of that, you fucker.
Oh, I think we need to keep a count on how many of these happened, because that's 2 now.
Yeah, he's bumming cigs.
Right. Well, we'll keep a count of how many times that happens from now. That's 2 so far. So the next scene, we see Sir holding court, telling the Ledbetters front room how his son broke his leg while skiing. And then, with some real casual xenophobia, throws in the fact that it was a German's fault for moving the markers.
All the time swilling his brandy round in his glass.
Yeah, and I find Sir a really odd character, especially sort of, we've said about this episode looking at the husband and wife combos in both houses, and Sir and Felicity, that combo, they're like chalk and cheese because she's so lovely and ends up singing along with Tom and having a great time.
And she's dead interested, isn't she, in their life?
She loves the fact that their lifestyle is something that she can sort of find out more about and ask about, and she's really interested. But Sir is such a fuddy-duddy. He's a real sort of stick in the mud, isn't he?
Yeah. I think she's great, Felicity. I was glad to see her back because she's just a game old bird. Loads of fun.
She is. She's supportive and interested, and just seems like a real... She makes it into a bit of an odd couple because Sir is drastically different to how sort of she appears. So the couples start chatting about the evening, and Barbara says that she thinks that the evening's a bit of a setup, and Sir tries to explain it away as being a chance to chew the cud and have a chat. But then Felicity drops him in it by saying, well, I thought you'd ask Tom here to ask him about the freelance work. So straight away, she's there to show up her husband, which she seems to do a lot, which I quite like, because it really does show him up for being such a snidey, scheming character, I think.
Yeah, and Jerry's kowtowing to him again, isn't he? And taking, I think Tom says, well, that isn't what you said when I quit. And they said, no, it was Jerry who said such and such a thing. And Jerry's like, oh, yes, it was me, sir. I don't like Jerry when he's around, sir, at all. No, he's a really snivelling little rat, and it's not pleasant to watch.
No. But they asked Barbara what she thinks about all this, and Barbara says, well, if he'd have taken it, I'd have punched him in the nose.
Yeah.
She's definitely on the side of we don't need to be doing this. We've chosen this life. I'm on board. Let's just get on with it.
So despite that, Margo decides to shame her about her finances right in front of company again, which I thought was a bit mean.
Yeah, a bit
unnecessary,
mean-spirited, isn't it? Yes, yeah. And that's sort of Margot's default attitude, isn't it? It's always down to the money that they don't have anymore. And are you not ashamed of it? Do you not feel bad about it? Yeah.
Did you notice Felicity's pronunciation of the word freelance?
No, but do an impression for me.
Well, she just says it like 2 words. In my memory, it's like Paddy McGuinness going, free, Lance.
Lance.
Lance, that is free. It's, She says something like, "Sir," she says, "Andrew, I thought you wanted to give him work free lance." And I thought, that's not how you say freelance. But I suppose it's the 70s. Maybe it was a new concept.
Maybe it was.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So the next scene, we see Barbara and Tom back in their kitchen, all cosy, in front of the Arga. And we find out that their sort of standard week is around like an 84-hour week, which really did like shock me and made me feel really inadequate. That an 84-hour week that's what you get from stepping off the treadmill of life to do your own thing, and you've got to put in an 84-hour week just to
crazy.
Live.
It's not sustainable, no pun intended, is it?
No, I don't think so. No, you just have
going.
You'd just be ill, I think, wouldn't you?
But the cat's back. The cat's back in the scene. The cat, I thought, never showed its face again, so I'm glad to see it's alive.
Was. Although they did threaten to put it on the fire. So who knows if it'll be around from now on. Yeah.
Did you notice as well, when it cut to this scene, Tom said,
"I was totally bald when I was born."
"I was totally bald when I was born."
Yeah, it was just a really random...
That's just an aspect of Tom's personality, which is actually quite likeable, because he's got this meandering mind that just... Like, the other example is earlier on in the episode, he says something about the pointed head of a serenium toad or something.
Yes,
and he just comes out with this crazy shit all the time.
Yeah. So in this scene, they're chatting about what they miss from their previous life. Is there anything that you miss having because we've chosen to live in this way? And one of the things that Barbara says, first of all, she says that she doesn't miss anything. And then she says that she does have one fantasy, and Tom's eyes light up like Blackpool illuminations. And she just says a bit of luxury, being waited on, staying in a hotel. She misses that aspect of their old life, which is understandable because that's just gone out the window.
Especially probably because she sees Margo still enjoying it and is regaled with tales of their frivolous lifestyle when they're allowed to go and do things like that. That scene ends, doesn't it, with Barbara doing one of her sort of come-to-bed eyes, cow eyes.
The cow eyes
Bed's
were back.
Free, Tom. Bed's free, Tom.
There's quite a lot of that in this episode, isn't there? It's it seems to be a theme. Yep. So we're in Jerry and Margot's front room now. And Margo is looking round for her music, for her choir. She's due to take part in a choir where they sing Handel's Messiah, and she's looking. I think it's in like one of them lift up poof things, isn't it? That you had in the 70s. That was like part of furniture but part storage. Quite handy.
Next to.
And she finds it next to Playmate of the Month, Jerry's Playboy magazine.
Dirty old bastard.
Hiding it along with Margot's music. And Margot's really sort of put out because that's where Handel's Messiah should not be, next to the Playmate of the Month.
Certainly not.
No, so she's heading out to do the choir. Jerry's got himself an Indian takeaway.
A takeaway pronounced not takeaway like we would say, but like Paddy McGuinness would say.
A take away. An away that you take. So he's got himself an Indian takeaway, and hashtag different times. Margot's got a lot of sort of rules put in place for when Jerry has an Indian takeaway. He's got to eat it in the kitchen. He's got to eat it with the extractor fan on, because the last time that he had one, he apparently ruined the ambience of the front room because she could smell it on the curtains and on the settee. So off she goes. Jerry's busy sorting out his tea on a tray, and then Tom comes into the house, and he's hiding behind the settee. I think it's like a setup to scare Jerry.
But he never knocks, does he?
Just wanders in, and he's hid behind the couch. I found it was a bit weird. But Jerry's busy fanning the smell of his Indian around the front room, just to piss Margo off when she gets back. And then Tom jumps out and surprises Jerry that he's like just suddenly turned up in his front room. And
Yeah,
then,
and he's lucky, really, isn't he? Because Jerry is eating and wafting the smell around, but he could easily have had his Playboy out and be having a good old Thomas Tank.
He could. That was only seconds before. So, it would have been upsetting to see that. I don't want to see that.
Again, that's good life after dark.
So then Tom proceeds to help Jerry, put his tea out on the tray and eat it along with him. He's pretty much like digging in his poppadoms and all sorts.
Looks rough though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
1970s curry does not look appealing.
When I think of 1970s curry, I just think of those Vesta meals that they weren't even refrigerated. They were like on a shelf in the supermarket, and it was like a reconstituted, dehydrated number of
God
curry.
knows what meat is in this fucking curry that Jerry's eating. So Jerry and Tom is eating.
It's meat, I think, in inverted commas, because it could be any combination of animal.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Jerry's happy.
Moving on. Yeah, Jerry's happy to sit and eat that. Tom has arrived round at their house to take up the freelance work that's been offered by Sir, but wants to keep it from Barbara. But Jerry says, well, if you do take it up, I can hide all the drawings in our desk, and it can be locked up, and it can be our secret. You can just get on with it and get the money for it, which I'm sure will be handy. And I'll ensure that Barbara doesn't find out. Which
is good of him again, isn't it?
It is. I don't know though. I think a bit sneaky.
Well, yeah, but he's doing it. They're both doing it for the right reasons. It's not as if they're doing it to pay for a week in Amsterdam where they go sleeping with hookers and snorting cocaine, is it? Although I'm sure that Jerry probably does that in his spare time in his Burberry caps.
I bet he does. So next we see Margo going round to Barbara's house to have her choir outfit. How does she describe it? She describes it as an oratorio tent, because it is this big sort of moo-moo shaped number. She's having it taken in by Barbara, but not too tight, because it still needs to look virginal, apparently.
Yeah. Because she compliments her boobs, doesn't she?
She does. She says she's got a nice bust, and Margo loves that because she's got a lovely smile on her face. So she likes. She comes across as a bit of a prude, but I think she quite likes the compliments, and I think she's quite sexual. Is Margo?
But she's quite funny though, because she's going, Barbara, really? But she got a massive grin on her face.
She loves it. Yeah,
and it's nice. It's nice as well to see Barbara doing something for Margo, because the Goods Ledbetter's relationship is more take from the Goods because of Tom. But we see Barbara being lovely and doing something for a friend, which I thought was quite nice. Absolutely.
So she's busy pinning away, but then Margo lets slip the secret of the drawing plans in the desk at their house, which she's found out by dusting. She dusted the lock vigorously until it fell open, and the plans were revealed in the desk. So she's gone over to tell Barbara about this and say, yay, it's great, because it means that Tom's obviously come to his senses and has gone back to work.
Yeah, and I think she's not doing it from a malicious point of view. Well, she's conning herself, really, isn't she? She's basically telling herself that it's okay to tell Barbara, to put Barbara's mind at ease, but really she's doing it to feel important, to have a secret that she can tell her. But she's kind of like framed it. The narrative she's created for herself is that she's doing something nice. Yeah. And it backfires.
It does backfire a little bit, yeah, because Barbara then goes up like a chippy. And she waits for Tom to come home, and he's sort of set up this pretense that he's going round to the Ledbetters to put up some shelves. And so Barbara asks him, she challenges him on, how's the shelves? How are they doing? And he sort of like comes up with a quick lie, but then she reveals that she knows all about the fact that he's been doing this work behind her back. And she says, what's the point of trying to do it all on our own when you're going to take work like this? This isn't the self-sufficiency life that we talked about, which is quite a poignant moment.
Well, yes, it is. Well, I don't know if it's poignant for me. I sort of had a different take on it, because her commitment to the lifestyle is admirable, but she overreacts to such an extreme in such an extreme way without having the full information, as we as the viewer, we know why Tom's doing it.
Yeah.
She overreacts to such an extent. I mean, she even kicks the poor fucker in the shin. I mean, I don't like Tom, but I'm not, you
don't want to kick
gonna
him.
put up with domestic violence. She's fearsome. She goes off like a bottle of pop.
But then she is, without the knowledge that we've got as the viewer, she's been lied to, and she's put all the eggs in one basket, pardon the pun, and is living this self-sufficiency life, having given everything up. But she doesn't realise what's going to be happening. She doesn't realise what's coming. The nice treat that's coming. So she just sees it as he's fallen at the first hurdle, and she's sort of committed to this life now that's just bullshit.
I can understand her being furious, I guess, in those circumstances.
Kicking,
in fact, when Tom enters whistling and going, hello, 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 I actually feared for him at that point. I thought,
did you?
You want to tone it down, son?
But he tells Barbara that this is the first and last time I'm going to do this. It's one job, and the only reason is you. And that she's going to spoil him. That he's going to spoil her. Sorry, he's going to do something lovely for her. And then she gets a bit weepy, and then she hits him again. And he says, "What's that for?" And she says, "That's just for being bloody perfect." And I thought that was quite cute. So it was worth the reveal. It was worth the.
It was. He's far from perfect, but that was a lovely moment. And
yes.
I don't mind admitting, Al, that I welled up a bit.
Did you? Oh, bless you.
Bless you.
It's a lovely moment. It is a lovely moment.
It is.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
The next scene, we see Margo on the phone to Miss Mountshaft.
Hey, Miss Mountshaft!
Who she's blackmailing into letting her stand in the front row when they're in the choir, when they're singing the Messiah. She's got a load of tricks up her sleeve as to why she should be front centre of the choir. The fact that she is the only one that's done something decent with the choir costume, and that she brings the gingerbreads to the rehearsals. So surely she should be front and centre.
She's a manipulative shrew, all right, but it's definitely a sort of recurring leitmotif for her to be blackmailing Miss Mountshaft on the phone whilst smoking a cigarette elegantly, isn't it?
I love
that's something you see a lot of. Yeah, it's
very Margo. And then Jerry comes in with gloves on. He's been round to sort Tom and Barbara's animals out while they've gone out. They've gone out to spend
what a hero.
The money. So he's been there sorting out the animals while Tom and Barbara are staying overnight at a hotel. And I think I get the gist that is this where they went on their honeymoon? Is that where they've sort of revisited? They've gone back to the honeymoon hotel because the honeymoon starts getting talked about.
Yeah, I didn't quite follow, but you might be right. Maybe I just missed it. I know that they're very reminiscent about their own. We get some backstory to their own marriage while they're talking about their own honeymoon, and it's lovely.
It is. Although I did laugh at the fact that when Jerry mentions the first thing that comes to mind that's most memorable about their honeymoon, it's the games room with the broken ping pong balls. I think that's brilliant. And then they're chatting about how they should spend their evening, and Jerry automatically goes to his little black book and starts to pull out names of people they could spend the evening with. And Margot's got that little glint in her eye. She doesn't want to be in any restaurant with any friends. She just wants a quiet night in with Jerry.
Yeah, and he's totally oblivious, isn't he? Because
absolutely.
she's given him all her best moves, which maybe are not as coquettish as Barbara's, but they're still
quite overt, aren't they?
Yeah, she's being desperately flirtatious. She doesn't want to go to dinner with any socialists or a couple called Mark and Babette. The fuck sort of name is that? I've never even heard of Babette.
She wants a night in.
Yeah, and presumably Jerry's oblivious because it doesn't happen that often. I don't know. You think she's quite sexual, don't you? So maybe he's just a dope.
Maybe. He doesn't seem to pick up on the cow eyes as quickly as Tom does with Barbara.
And he didn't in the last episode when... just before he went down to the cellar, she was keen for a bit of nookie, wasn't she?
Yeah. I know, yeah. Maybe. So what, so the Playboy of the Month thing.
He might just be empty, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Absolutely, I was just thinking that. Maybe he's sorted. He's sorted for the evening, perhaps.
Yeah. He's already been on a date with Mother Palm and her 5 lovely daughters, so Margot's got nothing for him.
No. She'll have to just bide her time. So Tom and Barbara are at the hotel having dinner. They're very poshed up as well. Tom's got his tuxedo on. Barbara looks lovely in... I can imagine Barbara's sort of dress before all this. Her choices were very sort of like Laura Ashley, floral floaty numbers. I can imagine sort of Barbara's choice of outfits. But they both look so beautiful and lovely, and it's really nice to sort of see them in that light. I know we don't see it very often, and we're not supposed to do, but it was quite nice on this occasion to see them out and about like that.
And of course, they're playing up to their very silly nature, aren't they? They start doing role play, pretending to be another couple, and
that he's like the master of the house. Yeah, and it's it comes to them so quickly. They're so quick, and I quite like it. Barbara talks about the fact that Tom spent £50 on her as well. And that's including the hotel and the meal and just the sort of night away in general. So I looked up the equivalent of what £50 would be today. And it's around £420 with inflation. So that's quite a chunk if you live in a self-sufficiency lifestyle where you've not got an income sort of coming in all the time. So that's quite a big wedge, isn't it, to sort of throw away on a night out.
Think about it in the context of what we learn next, though, about there was actually more money. So it's 4 times that.
Yes.
So
yes.
That means he spent the equivalent in today's money of over £1,500.
Yeah.
Pound sterling
on a night away, a meal, and a gift. But Barbara she's really touched by this. The whole sort of evening and the gift is for her, and I think she does see it as it's a nice treat, and I know this is not gonna continue, and it's nice to have it now, and it's almost like it's quite sad, I suppose, really, because it's like bookending their the life, isn't it? The life that they've had so far. It's like
she's not sad though, is
completely.
She? She's not sad. I think the way to frame it is that they're saying goodbye to it and having one last hurrah, but she's so much more looking forward to the new adventure that they've started on already, you know. But then, of course, she goes up like a bottle of pop again, doesn't she? Because she erroneously, as we as the viewer know, thinks that he's actually earned. I think Tom actually says I earned £200, and she thinks he's used that extra £150 to pay off the bills, and she goes mental at him. And to be honest, that would be quite a noble thing to do. It's not like he's not like he spent it on hookers and cocaine either, is it? But she goes mad and pours a pudding on him, and just she's proper scary when she loses it.
Yeah, it's so against her normal character, isn't it? She's such a lovely, sweet person who does go up very quickly. Sometimes when she's not got all the facts, she just reacts rather than sort of thinks about what it is that's actually happening.
I think it's probably just not lazy writing, but clumsy writing, because it's to give it more of a emotional edge to the scene, to have her overreact like that, but it's not really necessary. So I don't really think it reflects that badly on Barbara as a character so much as a little bit clumsy to have her do that, because I think she's a rational person. She would have actually said, well, where's the rest of the money, rather than exploded at him. But there you go. We can say that because they're both dead, so they're not gonna, the writers, they're not gonna come and haunt us, are they? Oh, actually, they're dead.
No, they're not. I hope not. Oh, God.
They're both brown bread, and we hope that they don't haunt us. And
no,
if they do,
we're sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Bob. Sorry, what's the other guy? Bob Larby and John Esmond. That's it. Sorry, Bob and John. Sorry.
So what's he actually done with the money? The extra money that he'd made?
He just spent it on paying the... no, he didn't.
No, you're rewriting it now.
He bought Barbara a posh frock.
Yeah.
Did he? Yes, he
did. It's the jewellery, isn't it? The jewellery.
It's the jewellery. I'm getting mixed up between episodes now. There's an episode later called Posh Frock, isn't there? Fucking hell. We've really done our homework on this one, haven't we? Tom has bought her some jewellery, so he spent the best part of £1,000 in today's money on some jewellery for Barbara, and she's she's amazed by this, and she thinks that she's got the best husband in the world. And Tom's silliness comes out, and he forces her hands into the mashed potato in front of her, which is again really nice.
It is. It's. I think it's a lovely episode. It's quite a poignant one, and I think it sets up the rest of the sort of story from now on. We've seen that life ended, the frivolity and enjoying the money that going out to work brings, and we see now the start. I think we see now the start of their new lifestyle properly.
I think you're right, yeah, and the last 2 episodes have been great. Series 2 is the best series of The Good Life, but these 2 are really strong. One of the things I really liked about this episode was that we had the introduction to the invisible character of Miss Mountshaft. Yes. Later on, we also get Mrs. Dooms Patterson, of course, but I guess there's not. It's something you see in some sitcoms, like Captain Mannarin's wife. You never saw. Yes. And Arthur Daly's was always referring to her indoors, wasn't he?
Her indoors, yeah.
It's usually a wife, basically. It tends to be a wife. But in this case, they're basically the people who impact on one of the lead characters' existence and lives quite meaningfully, but we never actually see the character on screen or even hear them. But we learn little bits about them over time, like basically Mrs. Mountshaft is a whale, isn't she? That's why that dress is so big. And
that dress is so big.
And that's why, that's just something I really liked about The Good Life. The fact that Margo had this life that we learn about, but it's never explicitly shown on screen. And I thought that was cool to see at least one of those invisible characters come in.
Yeah.
So I think it's about time we had a little trip over to Al's Fashion Corner, don't you?
Yes.
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
And in Fashion Corner this week, I've noticed there's lots of reusing of costumes as the series has gone on. So we've seen a lot of the Jerry's jacket, which makes a re-emergence in most episodes. Margot's stunning blue, pink and green and white dress, which is another one of my favourites. But new costume in this episode was Margot's. It's like a mint and white nylon dress with a waterfall collar, and it is beautiful. And she just seems to suit. Penelope Keith just suits anything that you put on her. But this dress in particular was stunning. Not one to sit near a gas fire in, I don't think, because it would just go up. But it's a really sort of stunning fitted nylon number. So I thought it was worth a mention. Beyond that, everybody seems to be just recycling old costumes as it goes along, which is I don't know. It fits with the with the story of self-sufficiency if we're reusing stuff as we go along.
Well, I think it's probably more likely that Penelope Keith spent all the money at Harrods earlier that week and there was nothing left in the pot. Tom's tie, when Tom and Barbara came over for dinner, Tom had a tie on that was too long. It was like down below his crotch, like one of Donald Trump's ties.
Donald Trump ties.
Yeah. We have the best lifestyle, believe me. People are saying it's tremendous. I've done more for sustainable living, probably than any other person in history. We have the best goats. I thought he needs to learn how to. You would think with his corporate background he would know how to tie a tie, but maybe not.
How to tie a tie, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed, fashion-wise, was Barbara's pokey nips.
Oh, I didn't notice those. Which scene are we in?
Early on, Felicity Kendall a lot of the time has pokey nips. She's like
it's just no bra on.
Probably, or just a thin bra. I mean, she was like it was something that I think in other things she was like the Jennifer Aniston of the 1970s. Her nips were always on display.
Always out. Yeah.
But other than that, So who so ends Fashion Corner talking about nipples of a 70-year-old woman. Who is your most valuable player this week?
I think my most valuable player this week was Tom. I don't think I've picked Tom yet. Yeah?
No, I think you have. Yeah, Tom is actually in the lead, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Tom, for all the right reasons of doing a nice thing, being caring enough about his wife to do something lovely for her, knowing that she's taken on this lifestyle with him.
Totally agree.
And he's dragging her along. Even though she wants to be there, he's dragging her along, though, to sort of be part of it. But the nice gesture just puts a nice shine on Tom.
Yeah, he was very selfless. I said last week that he may well redeem himself, but it was unlikely, and yet I was proved completely wrong because he did exactly that, didn't he? He was
a week later,
brilliant.
yeah.
Despite bludgeoning a fag off Jerry and eating half of his curry, he is also my MVP just for being a good husband this week. Yep.
Excellent. I think we need to keep tab watch. We need to have tab watch in future.
Yeah, we'll keep it going.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So next week's episode, Ben. What are we on next week?
Next week's episode is the final episode of the first series. I nearly said season, like an American then.
Season?
If you are an American listening to this podcast because you loved Good Neighbours in the 70s, this is the season ending episode 7.
Finale. This is season finale.
Yeah, this is the finale. What do they say? What do they say when they get to 100 episodes in America?
Yay!
Syndicated or something.
Right, okay.
This is fucking hell. Just stay on track. Stay on track, Ben. Episode 7, Backs to the Wall. Tom and Barbara receive help from an unexpected quarter when harvest time comes, and Tom knackers his back.
Oh, exciting.
I think this is the one where Margo puts on all her gardening gear and is useless in the garden, so that'll be fun to see.
Oh, brilliant. Is it just a series of gloves and a watering can?
Yeah. She's rubbing the genie, hoping the genie comes out and does all the work for her.
Does the work for her. So if you're enjoying our deep dive of The Good Life, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SADDO Podcast. On Facebook, you can find us by searching for SADDO Podcast. We have a website, www.saddo.club, where you can get more information or listen to episodes. Get in touch, email us, tell us what you think at saddopodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep, and our usual thanks to Anya and to Beat Raid for our theme tune. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week for episode 7.
Yay! Bye!
Ta-ra!